So we're talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder all day today on this channel. This video is going to talk about the team itself, and then the next video is going to talk about Carmelo Anthony and where he fits in today's NBA and his age and all that. But let's just talk about OKC right quick. So they've been eliminated by the Utah Jazz, and I think you could have made the argument that the Thunder had the two best players in this series based on talent walking into the series, right, between Westbrook and Paul George. However, through game planning, attacking Carmelo Anthony, great defense, Utah was able to pull this thing out in 6 games, right? And through a decent stretch of this thing, looked like the better team. So what does that say about OKC? Well, number one, I mean, I don't want to bleed this into the Melo video too much, but it's going to happen inevitably. Carmelo Anthony, from a defensive standpoint, has a pretty rough time in today's NBA, and then offensively, he has not been able to really adjust to his new role in terms of being an off-ball player that much. So if you just have a guy like that who's just not going to be that good for you in the playoffs against a good team, that's a disadvantage right there. I mean, someone had a stat where it was with Melo, OKC was a big minus. Without him, they were a big plus. The lineup with Abrines and Jeremy Grant, a lot more switchability. Abrines is a better off-ball player than Melo is at this point, which is kind of sad to say, but it's unfortunately the reality. Shout out to Alex Abrines. And you know, I think it gets the offense flowing a bit more because it's Westbrook, Paul George, and role players, right? So that was step one. But then besides that, I think when you look at OKC, you could say the Robertson injury was a real thing, but then also there was the lack of real offense from this team, right? So often this season it was Westbrook pick and rolls, little plays here and there for Paul George and Melo, but for the most part it was isolation basketball, and you go up against a team like the Jazz and, well, that's what's just going to happen, you know? Now, to their credit, it was an exciting 6 games, a very exciting last 2 games especially, so it's not like they just got destroyed by Utah, and this thing was close to going back to Game 7 in OKC, so I mean, to put it into perspective, I guess. But now, looking at this Thunder team, where do you go from here? Well, the first thing you start with is Paul George. We're not inside the guy's head. We don't know what he's going to do. But all the rumors are out there that he wants to go to the Lakers. It's been a thing all season. Now, to Paul George's, I guess, credit, he has been pretty damn good about making it known that he enjoys his time in OKC and all that stuff. So I think there's some reason to be hopeful if you're a fan of the Oklahoma City Thunder that Paul George could return, and that would be great for obvious reasons, because I think he's kind of like the perfect second option next to Westbrook, because he fills in a lot of the holes that Westbrook has in terms of not being the best team defender and all that, but then Westbrook fills in the holes that Paul George has, which is, for as good as he is probably just a shade not good enough to be a number one option, and he's also not like the best playmaker in the world, Paul George, so Westbrook makes up for that. It's just a perfect 1-2 combo, you know? And then I think with Robertson coming back next season, if you could go with Paul George, Andre Robertson, and then Jeremy Grant and Steven Adams at times, that could be like a really, really good defensive team, and you probably still have enough offense and shooting between PG and Westbrook and all that to make it work. So that would be awesome. However, another elephant in the room here is Carmelo Anthony and his $28 million, I guess it's technically an early termination option. It's not a player option. I don't really know what the difference is between those two things, but that's what it is. I mean, it seems like he's going to accept that, right? Because from a money standpoint, he's not getting that much money on the open market. I mean, if Carmelo Anthony becomes a free agent, he's probably looking to get somewhere between $7 to like $11 million on a not very lengthy contract, right? So, yeah, he's probably coming back. Now, I guess he made the money decision earlier on in his career by choosing the Knicks over the Bulls, which I do not fault him for. Maybe because he's older now, he would look to go to a winning team. Now, he should probably know that not many winning teams actually have cap space. I mean, would Melo be willing to go for the mid-level to, like, the Rockets or something? I don't know. I don't even know if the Rockets have their mid-level. I don't know where their cap situation's at and where it's going to be at after this offseason. But just to use an example that'll probably never come true, a team like that. I mean, hell, you can make the argument that there's not going to be anyone who's better than OKC that would be willing to take Melo on. I mean, look, like if there's a team that is on the brink of being a 47 to 48 win team and potentially a low to mid 50s win team that has a choice between like a really good role player for their mid-level or Carmelo Anthony, they may be more inclined to take the really good role player. So, I mean, that's just Melo's reality at this point. He'll find a place. Like he's got too much talent, we think. I mean, this season was not good for him, but you'd like to think he has enough scoring potential to still get something, but I also have to believe he's going to come back to this OKC team, and to put it bluntly, unless he loses some weight and improves his three-point shot, that's going to hurt these Thunder because of everything I've already said about the guy in this video. Now, are there ways to manage that? I mean, potentially. Like, could you try the whole sixth man thing? I mean, I guess you could give it a shot. I think the idea of taking Westbrook and potentially Paul George, if he's still on this team, out of the game and having Melo in there might not be the best for you, but who knows? Maybe he'll take that sort of a challenge on. It's rough stuff, man. If we can look at other ways that OKC could potentially improve here, the first thing we can look at is just some of their guys who could just get better. I mean, I think the guy that I'm looking at is Jeremy Grant, who is a free agent this season, and I would look to re-sign him if I'm OKC. Probably won't cost you too much money to do it. He's got some real defensive chops, man. I think he came alive a bit this season on defense. The potential was always there, but he really showed it off. And offensively, I think he made enough strides to make you think that he can be something from there. I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to be making three-pointers consistently, but it just seems like he can like potentially hang around. He shot very well from the field in the playoffs. He shot over 50%. And I like that he also has a willingness to attack the glass on offense, kind of like what Robertson does. So there's a chance that he could just get better for you. There's a chance that Alex Abrinas could get better as an offensive player because he has a lot of confidence. Terrence Ferguson didn't play too much for them this year, but I remember hearing that he was like a 3-and-D guy in college. He's only 19 years old. Who knows when he'll actually be able to get rotation minutes for them. And then besides that, it's mainly established guys like Robertson, Steven Adams. I guess there's a chance Steven Adams could get better. In fact, I remember seeing a thing where he said he wanted to shoot three-pointers next season, like corner threes. I mean, that would be cool. I don't want him out there too much because you want him on the offensive glass. But above the break threes where the opposing big man is already in the paint, yeah, that sort of thing can work. But, you know, besides all those, and I mean, to be fair, that is a few players, I don't know where the real, like, internal improvement comes from. Like, I don't picture Jeremy Grant averaging 16 points a game next season on 37% three-point shooting. It would be awesome, but I don't think it's going to happen. So you may just be kind of stuck with what you got. I mean, even if Paul George is gone and Melo returns, which I think he will, you're still over the salary cap. And at that point, you can get someone in free agency, whether it's with a mid-level or I don't know where they would end up in relation to the tax, because I don't know if they'd want to re-sign a Raymond Felton, which they probably should entertain the idea of just to have a not bad backup point guard. And then Jeremy Grant as well. So they may be pushing up right on the tax, and then at that point, I think your chances of getting like an actual free agent drop down by a few $1 million. So, I mean, look, what would be best for them is if Paul George came back and Carmelo Anthony left. What's probably going to happen is the opposite. and that is not ideal for them. Are there any chances of a trade that they could make? I mean, I think Abrinas could get you something back. I don't think it would be anything that worthwhile. I also think you kind of need his outside shooting, especially if Paul George is going to be gone. They don't have their first round pick this season, so there's that for you. They're not exactly in the best situation to greatly improve as a team. So we'll just have to figure it out. Now, if everybody does come back, Paul George and Melo, is there anything that's going to be different? I mean, I don't know. Like, is it Westbrook not wanting to run actual offense? Is it Billy Donovan being not capable of it? I have to think that it's more towards the Westbrook thing, because we've seen that when Westbrook's not in the game, OKC runs some actual offense, but yeah. I don't know, man. This team may not look that different next season, because I think Melo's going to be back. It seems like Paul George is going to be gone, and, well, that's a downgrade. So we'll just have to see what happens.